Welcome to First Unitarian Toronto Online, where we gather to seek, connect, and serve. We welcome you, whether you're joining us from around the corner or around the world, and whether you're a longtime member of this community or visiting us for the first time. As we begin, we acknowledge that wherever each of us is located, we live and work on unceded or treaty lands that were colonized by white settlers. In Toronto, we are in the Dish with One Spoon territory and on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Ojibwe Chippewa, and the Wendat, lands which we now share with many diverse First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. I'm Angela Clausen. I'm joined this morning by Reverend Lynn Harrison, Dallas Bergen, Stan Yak, musicians Adam Sakiyama, Lucas Marchand, and Allison Hanley, and our AV technician, Matt Rideout. And now, as we begin our service, I invite you to light a candle or chalice if you have one handy, and to join with us in our chalice lighting words. As we light our chalice, may its flame kindle within us the warmth of compassion, the glow of love, the fire of commitment, and the light of truth.
Come, let us gather together in beloved community and mutual support so that we may carry each other out of darkness. The world and every individual in it, each one of us, is bearing so much right now. We lie in the darkest days of the year as traditions abound that prompt us to kindle joy in preparation for the turning of the year, the return of the light, and a coming spring. Today, Christians celebrate the third Sunday of Advent, the Sunday of joy in anticipation of Christmas, which is now palpably near. At the same time, Jews on this night will celebrate Chanukiah and a great triumph against a struggle of insurmountable odds. Today we gather recognizing that in life there is both joy and struggle. In sharing both our joys and struggles, we build a community of love and light. Tonight marks the fourth night of Chanukiah, and our sincere thanks to Stan Yak for chanting the Chanukiah blessing and to Noah Bergen for lighting the Chanukiah menorah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Chanukiah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam she'asa nisim lavoseinu bayomim hohem Bazman hazeh.
Thank you so much, Stan and Noah. From our many and varied paths, we arrive here as individuals to build up a community of love, commitment, and hope. To give expression to the highest aspirations of our congregation, let us now join our voices as one in the words of our covenant. Love is our doctrine. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve life, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all.
Looking ahead to the coming weeks, I'd like to let you know about several special services coming up. On Wednesday, December 16th at 7 p.m., we'll offer a Blue Christmas service created especially for anyone who finds this season a particularly difficult time. On Sunday, December 20th, in addition to our morning service, there will be a special Solstice Vespers service in the evening featuring music by harpist Charlene Wallace. And on December 24th, we'll host a Christmas Eve service online with seasonal music, joyful singing, and reflection. You can find out about all our services, drop-in groups, and other events at our website, firstunitariantoronto.org. And while you're there, do fill out the Say Hello form to stay in touch with us, and make sure to subscribe to our weekly e-newsletter, First Light. We continue to appreciate the many ways that all of you contribute to First, whether it be through a regular pledge or other donation, and in the many ways you all contribute to the life of the congregation through your presence and volunteer service. To make a financial donation to First, just click the donate button in the upper right-hand corner at our website to learn how to make an online donation or find out other ways to provide support. We really appreciate your generosity through all the acts of service to First, to the broader community, and in your helping to sustain the congregation in so many ways. And in that same regard, a special note of thanks to the fabulous delivery team of over 30 Firsters who brought more light, literally and figuratively, into each of our homes with their porch drops of beeswax candles. Thanks also to Jan Mahood for gift assembly, and especially to Lou Russell for taking on the giant task of organizing all the deliveries and drivers. Thank you all for making Project Beeswax a truly memorable and cherished moment in 2020 for all of us. Finally, I'd like to draw your attention to the You've Got Mail project, which is another way that volunteers can make a very significant difference right now. This simple and rewarding opportunity invites us to send personalized greetings to residents at New Visions Toronto, a nonprofit organization that provides housing and support for people with complex developmental and physical disabilities. The coordinator of the project, the late Mark Jorgensen's mother, Barb Wentworth, hopes that we can match all 57 residents at New Visions with friends from First. To find out more, contact Barb or see the notice in our weekly e-news First Light. I invite you now to take a deep cleansing breath and center down into a time of meditation, reflection, or prayer with the words of Barbara Wells Tenhove. The dark time has come. The earth, in her great dance around the sun, has come inevitably to the solstice, the time of extremes, of distance, of darkness and light. In our hemisphere, we experience this time as one of cold darkness, of shortening days and lengthening nights. The earth is tipping, from our perspective, further and further away from the sun. We wait, but the moment when the darkness is greatest is not entirely predictable. The spinning dance of the earth continues, and we wait for that one brief instant when the axis of the earth's rotation will cross the line through the center of our orbit around the sun, when the tipping will stop, and for a moment we will seem to stand suspended in space, pulsing with potential movement and ongoing life. Then, like a child's top that almost fell over, we will be saved by the spin and lifted up again towards the light.
We come now to a time in our service when we join in prayerful reflection on our shared sorrows as well as our joys. On the surface, our lives are individual, yet in fact we are deeply connected, intertwined in the interdependence of life that includes each one of us and all living things. Opening ourselves now to the meaning and mystery of life in all its seasons, we affirm that what touches any one of us touches us all. Today we are holding in our hearts many sorrows and concerns, both close to home and around the world. As we approach the shortest day of the year at winter solstice, we pray for all those who are struggling with the dark emotions of sadness, fear, anger, and grief. Our thoughts are with the many people experiencing financial hardship now, people who are hungry, and also those especially who are homeless, especially here in our city as the winter season becomes colder each day. We pray for people around the world who are suffering because of COVID-19, climate change, political instability, and so many other serious and urgent global concerns. And we hope for wisdom and strength from political leaders, medical personnel, and care providers of all kinds who are serving others in such crucial ways at this very significant time. As always, our hearts are especially with those who are grieving the loss of loved ones today. We continue to think of the friends and family of Jean McCorkle, who continue to grieve her loss, and we will remember Jean in an online gathering on Saturday, December the 19th. As well, today we are thinking of the family of Margaret Burney, a former member of this congregation who we learned died this past March. And now I'm so very sad to let you know that Shirley Grant has died at 90 years old. As many of you had heard, Shirley suffered a severe stroke just over a week ago. She was cared for in hospital during her final days with loving care from family members at her side. We learned just last night that Shirley had died yesterday morning. She will be cremated and her ashes will be scattered at her beloved cottage. Also, I can let you know that her son David has decided to provide a home for Lady, her beloved cat, who was her faithful and affectionate companion. Our hearts go out to Shirley's family and her many friends today. And now, because a sorrow shared is a burden lifted, you are invited to share any personal concerns that you are holding today or concerns that you are carrying for the wider world. You're invited them to type them into the chat, and I will do my best to lift them up. Marilee Brand is thinking today of her and Alan's friend Ron, who has been on a ventilator for 3 weeks with COVID. Kelly Ferguson is thinking of her friend Brenda, who lost her dad this week. Ruth Tate is so sad to hear about Shirley's passing. She was such a force of nature. Indeed, she was. Jennifer Beer is remembering her mother, who would have turned 88 on Thursday. Judy Magny as well is missing the joy and life of Shirley Grant. Harold Wright is feeling sorrow for his friend Barbara, whose cancer has returned. Donald Cole as well is sorry to hear about Shirley Grant, glad to hear that her ashes will go to her cottage, as did his mother Priscilla's, whose decision may have prompted Shirley's. Indeed, we are interconnected in so many ways. India Taylor shares the sorrow of the families and friends of the men who died and were injured in the building collapse in London. Yes, a terrible tragedy. Thank you for lifting that up. Sasha Akavi writes that he wishes that this were a normal holiday season when we could all hug our loved ones. Yes. Tanya Cawthron lifts up prayers for the LGBTQ community in Uganda who are suffering increased attacks as the election is approaching there. Bryce is lifting up thoughts today for those who cannot be with their families this Christmas because of COVID-19. Nancy Seward expresses, she says, so sorry, Kelly, for the loss of your dad. Matt Rideout lifts up from YouTube, from Miss April, thinking of Kelly, Maya, and Owen as they travel to visit Kelly's terminally ill father for Christmas. Our thoughts go out with all of you, Kelly, and your family, the entire family, thinking of you right now at this very difficult time. May these and other concerns be met with love, care, and compassion today and in the days to come. In addition to the many sorrows we carry, we also have joys to lift up today. We continue and will continue to share memories of Shirley Grant, missing her and also remembering her with great love. Often in challenging times, the blessings of our lives take on greater significance. We celebrate with joy the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah, as well as the Christian Advent season today. We give thanks for the blessings of simplicity, for the opportunity to change patterns, create new rituals, light candles. We affirm the value beyond measure of small acts of kindness and the presence of caring listeners on the phone and in online groups. We celebrate the blessings of connection right now and also of solitude. In so many ways, both of these states of being enrich our lives. Now I invite you to lift up any joys that you have in your heart today, that they may be shared among us. Janine is happy for her niece in Australia, who is showing 20 paintings in an invitational art exhibit at a community gallery. Sending good wishes to your niece, Janine. Kate and Doug are thinking of Kate's mother, Elizabeth, who had her 103rd birthday this week in Kentville, New Brunswick. Margaret Corr writes that a possum made a surprise visit to their backyard to eat birdseed that was dropped from the feeder. Welcome to that surprise visitor, and thank you, Margaret, for that joy. Ruth Tate shares the joy of quiet contemplation at the foot of learning. We give thanks, as always, for the technology that brings us together. Despite the fact that it brings challenges, it has created such a bridge for all of us through these months. Catherine is grateful for connections renewed and new created connections. Matt lifts up from YouTube, from Liz. Liz writes that she is thankful for the joy of skating again on the city's outdoor rinks. Lou is overwhelmed with gratitude at how hard the beeswax, at how, the altar kits and the beeswax candles. What a wonderful project, appreciated so deeply, and I know rewarding for the many volunteers who participated. For the miracle of Christmas cactus, I share that joy that Ken Wolfe shares. Dave Tiffin writes that he is joyful to receive the beeswax candles received in London, Ontario from Karen and her many elves. Ingrid Phillip is grateful for the kindness of First Unitarian. Gwen Harris is saying it is a good year for Christmas cards. Indeed, that traditional way of sending greetings, enjoying a bit of a resurgence this year, in a simple way to extend kindness to each other. Laura is grateful for people who make campfires around town, roasting marshmallows and hot dogs in the evenings. Jim and Linda are thankful for our ministerial team, for the uplifting words and music in these difficult times. Thank you so much, Jim and Linda. India Taylor is thankful for FaceTime talks with her granddaughter. Matt Rideout was happy to receive his candles from First this week. Candles are a tradition for Christmas Eve in his family, and they will be used over Zoom this year. Thank you so much, Matt. May these and other joys continue to shine in our lives, lifting us up in the coming days. And now, will you join me in a time of prayer? Spirit of life, the divine known to us by many names, and yet beyond all naming, awaken in us the strength we need as we strive to meet the challenges that face us, whatever they may be. Allow us to live in ways that support and nurture others, bringing our unique gifts to the world in creative and sustaining ways. Kindle our compassion, our insight, and our courage, that our actions may be aligned with our deepest values, and our lives may become offerings of love and peace. Sustained by the warmth of community and inspired by the light of justice, may we bring our light into this season with gratitude, hope, and joy. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. And now I'd like to share with you a reading entitled Miracles by Walt Whitman. Why, who makes much of a miracle? As to me, I know nothing else but miracles, whether I walk the streets of Manhattan or dart my sight over the roofs of houses toward the sky, or wade with naked feet along the beach, just in the edge of the water, or stand under trees in the woods, or talk by day with anyone I love, or sleep in the bed at night with anyone I love, or sit at table at dinner with the rest, or look at strangers opposite me riding in the car, or watch honeybees busy around the hive of a summer forenoon, or animals feeding in the fields, or birds, or the wonderfulness of insects in the air, or the wonderfulness of the sundown, or of stars shining so quiet and bright, or the exquisite, delicate, thin curve of the new moon in spring. These, with the rest, one and all, are to me miracles, the whole referring yet each distinct and in its place. To me, every hour of the light and dark is a miracle. Every cubic inch of space is a miracle. Every square yard of the surface of the earth is spread with the same. Every foot of the interior swarms with the same. To me, the sea is a continual miracle, the fishes that swim, the rocks, the motion of the waves, the ships with human beings in them. What stranger miracles are there?
Mi yemalel gevurot Israel otan mi yimne. Mi yemalel gevurot Israel otan mi yimne. הן בחדור יקום הגיבור גואל העם. הן בקדר יקום הגיבור אל העם. מי ימלל גבורות ישראל, אותן מי ימנה. מי ימלל גבורות ישראל, אותן מי ימנה. The celebration of Chanukiah, a lesser Jewish holiday than the high holy days of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur in the fall, and Passover and Shavuot in the spring, celebrates liberation from oppression, freedom of religion, and finding light in the darkest of times. In celebrating Hanukkah, Jews remember what it means to persevere, to overcome, to remember, gleaning wisdom from the past to better live into the future. As Unitarian Universalists, we affirm our Judeo-Christian heritage among our sources, recognizing Judaism and Christianity's call to love one another, to be a light unto every nation. The lighting of the Chanukiah, as the lighting of our communal chalice, is a great metaphor that demonstrates that the light of a solitary candle or person is meek, but the light of many can produce a great illumination to drive out darkness. What an appropriate message for this current time. Within the turning of this year, we are deep in the darkest days. We're accepting a holiday season without in-person concerts, parties, dinners, worship services, family gatherings. And we have endured, at least here in Toronto, 10 months of disruption. We may be feeling weary of the struggle to endure. But a beacon in the distance shines. And that beacon, of course, is a vaccine, many vaccines, and the prospect of wide vaccination. The timeline towards what may be felt to be the end of this pandemic is finally becoming clear. If we are to believe what our leaders in government and public health are telling us, we can look forward to widespread vaccination in this country in 8 to 10 months, just as long as we have endured already. We are very likely halfway there. We can finally find some comfort knowing that a return to life as we knew it is not far off. And while I have tremendous elation that a vaccine is near, that we will be able to save countless lives from this terrible pandemic, I can't help but wonder whether we truly want or should want a return to normal. Certainly what was is better than what is now. But can we seize this disruption and find or create something redemptive in it? For if we were to go back to the status quo like nothing had happened, it would be a great disrespect to those who suffered or died during this calamity. In the 9 months ahead of us, can we commit to not blindly dashing back to how things were, but recognize the opportunity for a fresh start, a dramatic shift, a paradigm shift in our society, a regenesis? George Monbiot said all of this far better than I could in The Guardian in his piece titled, "The COVID-19 Recovery is an Opportunity for Systemic Change." Here's an excerpt. "The solutions of yesterday, such as coal and gas, are not the solutions that we need to prevent further risks to our future. To return to these profit-driven solutions is to reinforce the systems and institutions which led us here, systems that allow the rich to prosper at the expense of the poor, where profit and short-term economic gains are valued over the social and environmental well-being of current and future generations. We can't simply return to business as usual. The pandemic has presented us with an opportunity to pave a new way forward, to reflect and rebuild towards a society that can adequately mitigate and adapt to the threats that confront humanity now and into the future." The Commission for the Human Future, in their report, Surviving and Thriving in the 21st Century, have identified 10 catastrophic threats which we must address if we are to secure our collective future. These threats include not only pandemics and climate change, but nuclear weapons, scarcity of natural resources, collapse of life-supporting ecosystems, human population growth, pollution, food insecurity, and emerging technologies. By acknowledging the interconnected nature of many of these threats, the Commission recognizes that they often come from common causes and have common solutions. For example, stopping deforestation would also reduce the likelihood of novel diseases, protect ecosystems which support animal life, increase food security, and mitigate climate change through carbon sequestration. Furthermore, improving international cooperation would alleviate risks from catastrophic climate change, nuclear war, pandemics, and pollution. As we recover from COVID-19, young people are demanding we take this opportunity to implement systematic changes. Our future hangs in the balance. We must ensure that the decisions made today address those interconnected threats identified by the Commission and lay the foundations for a cleaner, fairer, more secure tomorrow that doesn't retreat to business as usual. End quote. It will be to our great benefit that Canada has secured nearly 80 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine, more than 2 for every Canadian. We should be greatly thankful for this. But will we also ensure that the production and distribution of the vaccine, both in Canada and globally, is equitable and not another story of the privileged haves and the less privileged have-nots? We've seen a massive spike in unemployment, in evictions, in homelessness due to the pandemic and the associated struggles it has brought. People are making homes in encampments. And these homes, shelters to keep these members of our community alive through the frigid winter, are being deconstructed and destroyed by our city officials and by law enforcement. Can we work not only to stop the city from destroying these encampments, but to bring systemic change that ensures that every person is given the dignity of a livable home and the essentials for a life of good health? Can we help usher in a new economic paradigm where we value people and their humanity more than their productivity? A new paradigm where the world's richest are not able to store up in barns a hoard of wealth on a scale to that of an unfathomable and sickening degree. A new paradigm where corporations are held accountable for their destruction of the planet, or are held accountable for the dissemination of lies and content that sows violence on their platforms. Can we create a society where our young people don't enter the workforce with an insurmountable student debt? You know, young people today don't give up on the dream of home ownership because they never had a chance to have that dream to begin with, except for those who have the privilege of the trickle down of parents' pensions accrued in a different time, when an average middle-class family could have one primary earner working a 40-hour week, making enough to provide for a family with several children, and with time for family vacations, the prospect of owning a comfortable home, maybe even a cottage. Will we stop viewing education with an industrial era mindset and usher in new forms of learning, utilizing the tools, the technology, the AI that is available, not as a measure for institutions to reap greater profits by saving money on staff or classroom learning, but motivated by a true and authentic desire to allow every child to reach their fullest individual potential? Will we press towards housing reform, rent control, police reform, healthcare reform, how to care for the elderly reform? Will we truly own our history of racial injustice and injustice towards Indigenous peoples and the ways and places it continues to be perpetuated systemically in territorial disputes from Wet'suwet'en Territory to Grand River Six Nations, in resource treaty rights in the Atlantic Canada fishery, and in the broken promises to provide adequate infrastructure of the most basic kind in remote communities? Can we influence our leaders in government to be true leaders on a global stage as we have been in the past, when our acts and our deeds spoke more loudly and more boldly, like when Tommy Douglas was trailblazing universal health care, or when Lester Pearson was meeting Gamal Abdel Nasser in Cairo and Khrushchev in Moscow, providing to be an instrumental figure in bringing periods of peace to the world's zones of conflict? We pat ourselves on the back a lot, but sometimes we act with hubris. Our disdain at being overlooked for a Security Council seat at the United Nations, perhaps we could view that with humility and try and restore some of those deeds from the past. Canada could lead the world in eradicating poverty. We could be the first by taking a leap to provide a universal basic income for every Canadian. Yet we pretend it's impossible, unable to remove the blinders held in place by tired plaudits of an economic system that is long broken. Beset with the fatigue of a pandemic, admittedly, this is all an awful lot to ask. So I'll dial it back a bit. But I do believe that as the prospect of the end of the worst of the pandemic draws nearer, that we will become energized and mobilized in a way that was impossible this past spring when we were grieving the loss of normalcy and paralyzed by uncertainty. Our personal and immediate work as individuals is to live into our principles that affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person and the interdependent web of life. This means mitigating the spread of COVID-19 through action and advocacy. That is our light to shine, to model caution, to model love and care for our community, and to not join the calls to reopen and reconvene when the numbers so clearly show that we can't afford to make such foolish decisions. Our responsibility, our spiritual practice, is to wear a mask, even when it feels inconvenient or unnecessary, to eliminate unnecessary outings to businesses, and to reduce our time spent in contact with others indoors. And the greatest challenge right now, to decline well-intentioned invitations to gather, even when the weight of obligation is heavy and the need real. We need to keep the holidays safe, safe for frontline workers, safe for the most vulnerable, safe for everyone. Living into our principles in this way is the best gift that we can possibly offer. Will you join me in prayer? Spirit of life, in this season of lights, may we apply all of the lessons from the world's wisdom, perseverance and hope from Chanukiah, patience and wonder from Advent, and an awakening rebirth from Yule. The winter solstice is a turning point for the return of the light. Let us build a great fire of hope, keeping vigil through the long night so that when the light returns and our spirits awaken, we can come together to build a better world that esteems love, justice, and peace above all. Amen.
One, two, three, two. Garments of life, be it tattered and torn. The cloak of the soldier is withered and worn. But what child is this that was poverty born, the peace of Christmas Day. The branch that bears the bright holly, the dove that rests in yonder tree, a light that shines for all to see, the peace of Christmas Day. The hope that has slumbered for 2,000 years, the promise that silenced 1,000 fears, a faith that can hobble an ocean of tears, the peace of Christmas Day. The branch that bears the bright holly, the dove that rests in yonder tree, the light that shines for all to see, the peace of Christmas Day. Add all the grief that people may bear, total the strife, the trouble and care. Put them in columns and leave them right there, the peace of Christmas Day. The branch that bears the bright holly, the dove that rests in yonder tree, the light that shines for all to see, the peace of Christmas Day. The branch that bears the bright holly, the dove that rests in yonder tree, the light that shines for all to see, the peace of Christmas Day.
Thank you so much, Lucas and Ali, for that. Go with the light of the season burning brightly in your hearts. Spread it to others unabashed, that it may illuminate the darkest places. Blessed be.
Thank you all for being with us this morning. Thank you, Dallas, for your powerful, inspiring message, and to everyone who contributed to today's service, including all of you who were here with your presence that contributes so very much. We're so glad you've been with us, and we invite you now to stay for conversation in our coffee time, virtual coffee time breakout rooms. Today's discussion question that Dallas leaves with us is, what spiritual practices or holiday traditions will keep hope alight for you this season? If you're new to First Unitarian, you're welcome to join me and Diane Wagner in our newcomer room after service. You can find the link to this friendly space on our website, or I'm just going to put it in the chat right now. It's easy to find, and we welcome you if you're a newcomer to the congregation. A reminder, too, that next Wednesday, December 16th at 7 o'clock in the evening, we'll offer a Blue Christmas service online designed especially for anyone who finds the holiday season a difficult time of year. And next Sunday, in addition to the regular Sunday morning service, there will be a Solstice Vespers service at 7 o'clock in the evening as well. Now I invite you to extinguish your chalice if you have not already done so. And if you'd like to stay for conversation, simply accept the invitation that will come to you on your screen. Blessings to you all. Be lights to one another, and let the light shine within each one of you in the days to come.